Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. My name's Terry. I'm the host of this channel. So this is not the normal kind of video I do on my channel. My channel is basically about trucking, and then we dabble in history, geography, geology, interesting news items, you name it. But the focus is on trucking, and in particular over-the-road trucking and trucking at the company I am a contractor with, which is Prime Inc. Not to be confused with Amazon Prime. Prime Inc. is the largest refrigerated carrier in North America, and if you go anywhere you will see Prime Inc. trucks. Anyway, the reason I'm doing this video is because I read a story just a few minutes ago actually on USA Today's website about a couple that lives in Topeka, Kansas, and recently moved to Mississippi, and I think it was like Ocean Springs or something like that, some ocean thing. But that doesn't really matter. What's important is that they hired some movers to move their stuff from Kansas down to Mississippi, and they haven't seen their stuff in like a month. And as I was reading the story in USA Today, over and over, like sentence after sentence of the reporter telling the story, I was like, well, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Oh, they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have done this. And this is not to, indict them, to dog them. But I really feel like there's a lot of people who do not understand a lot of the red flags about moving and about movers and the household goods moving industry, which is part of the trucking industry in a way. So my background is that I was career military, and we moved a lot then. But then for 16 years I practiced law, and we moved a few times then. And sometimes they were short moves, sometimes they were cross-country moves. But my wife has a count of it, but it's like 26 times in 30 years of marriage or whatever. So we had a lot of experience moving. And some of the things that I'll tell you I learned the hard way. But then I also, after I quit practicing law, I had my own business called Chief Transporters that I used my Sprinter van to move all sorts of items all over the country. I moved a lot of, very valuable antiques, props for movies, vintage neon signs, a lot of valuable stuff. But I also help people with small household moves, like somebody had a one-bedroom apartment or whatever. And I learned some stuff about that industry from doing that kind of work. And I had a lot of really satisfied customers. I had custom furniture builders that hired me over and over and over again because I just got stuff delivered on time or earlier than they expected. People trusted me, and I never had a claim or anything. I didn't break people's stuff, and I got it to where it was going. So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about the moving industry is, and by the way, I don't move furniture for a living. My company doesn't really do that. But one of the things that people don't understand about the moving industry is that oftentimes the truck that picks your furniture up is not going to be the truck that delivers it. And in fact, your stuff's just going to go sit in a warehouse somewhere till they find somebody that's willing to actually drive it to its destination and get it unloaded. Okay? But let's say, for example, and I'll use the story that was in the USA Today to kind of illustrate this. So this couple looks up a moving company, and somehow, and apparently this company was in South Florida and supposedly had some reviews that they were reputable. Well, you got to take all those reviews with a grain of salt, because they could easily be fake. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, if they're like Google reviews. Now, if you go through a conduit like UShip, those reviews will generally be genuine, because the only people that get to review are people that have actually used that carrier. But in this instance, they thought they had a reputable moving company, but it was kind of an innocuous name. It was just like JM Moving. Well, so they looked up this JM Moving and it seemed reputable, but they got a hold of somebody who said they were from JM Moving and that they would move their stuff from Topeka down to Mississippi. The first red flag is that you should never, if it's a reputable moving company, and I'll get to like individuals that do this, but if it's a reputable moving company, you will not be talking to the driver of the truck or the guy that's going to be carrying the furniture. You will be talking to an established office with an address, with a business phone number. Okay? That's the first red flag, is it shouldn't be the guy that's actually moving it. But let's say you did hire somebody and, they just show up at your house. Okay? Second red flag that I saw in this article was the dude that was moving them showed up in a U-Haul truck. Nobody that's a professional mover is going to show up in a U-Haul truck. U-Haul truck is for amateurs, okay? Or outfits that are fly-by-night, okay? First of all, the reason a pro wouldn't use a U-Haul truck is because they're expensive as heck. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, they're not really that heavy duty. And, in fact, I'll circle back to the amount that these folks paid this guy, but they paid him $3,500. I would almost be willing to bet that a one-way move in a 26-foot U-Haul from Topeka to Mississippi is going to cost about $3,500 just for the truck, and it certainly is going to cost that much for the truck rental and the fuel. And this guy kept putting them off. When you have a U-Haul rental, you only have a very few days to get to your destination and turn that truck in. And to the best of my knowledge, U-Haul really doesn't cater at all to any commercial entities, okay? So U-Haul's a big red flag. Another red flag, though, is even if it's like a Ryder truck, okay, or a Penske truck, if you should ask the carrier for their DOT number, their Department of Transportation number. That's a number issued by the federal government, and anybody that's hauling cargo, which your furniture and your belongings are, intrastate, has to have a DOT number. It doesn't matter if Penske has a DOT number or Ryder does, because they do. But the business needs to have a DOT number. If they can't provide that, that's a red flag. And here's the other thing. If they do provide you with a DOT number, on your phone, you can look that number up on the DOT's website, the U.S. Department of Transportation. You can look up anybody's DOT number. You can see who the company's owned by, etc. All the information about the company. If any of that doesn't add up, if they're not forthcoming with all of that information, that's a red flag. They probably should be able to provide you with a certificate of insurance or something that shows they're self-insured if they're a big company. And then the other thing too is that you should be able to know where your stuff is, right? Like, I would ask the driver, hey, is my stuff load to ride? And load to ride, L-O-A-D, load to, the word T-O, ride, means that the cargo is going to be delivered by the same vehicle that it was picked up on. Okay, so if they're saying no, this is not load to ride, then there should be a detailed inventory with stickers on the boxes, stickers on every piece of furniture. Everything that goes in that truck has to be on an inventory sheet that you get a copy of, with the numbers of the inventory sheet matching the number tags that they've put on the boxes. And you've probably all seen those tags. They're sometimes blue, sometimes green, but they all kind of look the same. The other thing, so if it's not load to ride, then there's got to be a complete inventory. Here's another pointer, and I learned this when I moved. The first time I moved, really, in the Navy, I was still single. No valuables, nothing that's really irreplaceable, whether it's jewelry, important papers, photographs, anything that's irreplaceable or highly pilferable. So your bag of gold coins, none of that stuff can go on that truck. Okay, it just can't. And you just got to take it with you. Okay, find a spot in your car. Even if you have to use a separate shipper, like FedEx or somebody like that, where you can insure it and you put a high dollar value on it or whatever, that's preferable to putting it in that moving van. Okay, and here's why. If they've helped you pack, they, and again, I don't want to badmouth an entire industry, because there's a lot of nice people, a lot of reputable people. But you got to understand that when you invite somebody in your house to pack up your stuff, they're casing your joint. But really, they're not casing the joint as much as they're casing what goes on that truck. Okay? If you say, oh yeah, can you pack this bag of gold coins? Or can you get my gold bars out of the closet and put them in a box and make sure they get on the truck? Yeah, sure, we'll do that, sir. You got to be smart about this. Don't risk losing important things. And this isn't just with regard to theft. This is regard to just general loss. I mean, I see trucks. I drive all over America. I see trucks in the ditch and in the median strip, maybe not daily, but quite often. And sometimes, especially when things went really wrong, those trailers or trucks are ripped open and the contents are all over the freaking highway. Well, it's one thing to replace a sofa. It's another thing to try to replace the one picture of your great grandmother. Okay? Take the stuff with you. It'll be safer. You'll feel better about it. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that, like, big stuff like your sofa, you may think your sofa is worth a lot of money, and you may have paid a lot of money for it, but it's not valuable to thieves. They're not gonna, your sofa might end up in the ditch somewhere if there's a wreck, but it's replaceable and it can be covered by insurance, and you can probably order the same model again. And no one's really going to try to steal it because honestly, even though you paid a lot of money for it, it's nice. You don't let the dog get on it. The truth of the matter is, it's used furniture, right? People put sofas out in front of their house with a free sign on them, and they stay there for weeks and months. It's just how it is, okay? Another thing that you may want to consider, in fact, I would strongly encourage it, is use technology to your advantage. Buy yourself some AirTags. There are other companies that make tracking devices. You don't need a lot of them, right? I would put, I would zip one inside of a cushion of a sofa or a chair or something like that. Put one in your, one in a box of books, one in a box of this, that. Hide them. Put them in some clothing. Put them in the pants pocket of clothing that just got packed in a box. They're not going to find them. And just the idea, and you know what? You could even tell them they're there. But they're not going to they're just going to be like, okay, they're going to know where this stuff is. Why risk that the police are going to show up where you told them an air tag is when your stuff doesn't show up at your destination, like these folks in the USA Today article. Use technology to your advantage. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your grandkids or your neighbor that's a tech geek or somebody that's knowledgeable. But there are tracking devices that you can use to keep track of where your shipment is. So when like they called and the guy was like, oh yeah, I'm on my way, you could be like, not according to this. You know, my crap that you picked up in Topeka is in a landfill in North Dakota. What's up with that? Okay? If they think that you can track down your stuff no matter where it is, they're not going to lie to you, and if they're up to no good, they're probably going to either not be up to no good or just not take the job. Okay? The other thing to keep in mind, the people that come to your house, a lot of them will be day laborers. And again, this is nothing against day laborers. A lot of those people were, actually lots of them work really hard all the time. But you just got to understand that they're not professional movers, okay? They're just people that are picking things up and putting them down. A professional mover, though, will have cargo straps, dollies for all the stuff. They shouldn't be busting up your appliances, getting them out of the house. They'll also have cargo blankets that'll cover up everything, so there's no damage to like your credenza or your dining room table or your chairs. If they don't look professional, then they're not. It's just that simple. If they don't have the accoutrements of the job, then they're not professional. I mean, I had, just to carry stuff in my Sprinter, I had cargo straps, bubble wrap, I had tons of blankets, tape, you name it. If I didn't like how something was packed, I would repack it myself because I didn't want to break anything, and then I would just charge the customer like $5 or $10 extra. And people appreciate that, actually, because a lot of times I'd show up, they'd be like, hey, do you have any bubble wrap? Do you have this? Do you have that? I would have everything, right? And you should expect that too. Sign a contract, get information, get copies of people's driver's licenses. If I got a load of, yogurt, let's say, and I show up to a place to give them the product, to drop it off, a lot of times I have to show ID. Like it is routine in this industry that drivers who are transporting cargo for pay, right, have to show ID to pick up stuff and most of the time, a lot of the time, to deliver it even. So they should not take any exception to the fact that you ask them for a license, a copy of their license. And if they're driving a truck that's decent size, they probably should have a commercial driver's license, okay? So, these are some of the things that you should do. The other thing that is a red flag, okay, is them getting a lot of money up front. The folks in this story paid $3,500 and they're just hoping to get back the boxes of their valuables. I don't have good news for them. The best news that I would have is that the guy finally shows up but says, he needs another $3,500 to, bring them their stuff. A lot of people fall victim to furniture extortion, okay? Where somebody gets it on their truck and they say they won't bring it until somebody gives them another payment that's in excess of the amount agreed upon. If that happens, I would advise agreeing to make the payment after you've notified the local police and say, hey, I had a contract to pay $5,000, okay? And by the way, the contract should be in writing. You should have writing, you know, for the contract, you should know the DOT numbers. This, you should already have their ID, picture of their ID, copy of it, whatever, right? And then if you said it was $5,000 and they're like, yeah, we're gonna need another $3,000 to drop this off. What you wanna do is say, okay, and then reach out to local police and tell them what's going on. And the reason I say that is because while it's normally would be like a contract issue, there's such a thing as conversion, where somebody holds something that they are not entitled to. They have possession of it legally, but failure to relinquish it is illegal. Okay? And this furniture extortion, you know, you want to get the police involved. You want to get some help. Okay? And if you got the person's ID and the license plate of the truck and the DOT number, the police are more likely to be willing to help you, because now they can, you know, they can identify who they're dealing with. Okay? And a lot of these people, that if they are fly by night, they rip you off, and, you know, then they move to another state and rip somebody else off, move to another state and rip somebody else off. Okay? I mean, I hate to say it, but it wouldn't surprise me to learn that once these guys got the $3,500 from this couple in Topeka, they went and emptied the truck out into a dumpster somewhere and turned the truck back in on a one-day rental, a one-day local rental. And that they're never going to see their stuff. I hope they do, because I understand that, you know, when you have heirlooms and you know, just stuff that's irreplaceable, right? Like once it's gone, it's never coming back. I know that would be very painful. And I just hope that if you've watched this, it gives you a few ideas and tips and things to think about. And let me say one other thing, and I'm going to kind of make a pitch for a company that I've used. I don't work for them, but I've used them before. So, you know, there's a few ways to get stuff moved. One is you can just do it yourself. You know, you rent a U-Haul, you do all the work. You pack it, you load it, you drive the truck, you unload it. It's a lot of work, and it's pretty expensive. In this case, these folks, the husband, wife, and their daughter, helped the guy load the truck. Okay, now when I was doing stuff with my Sprinter, I would have people help me. And, you know, I said, but if you can't, I'll get somebody. But I would have just gotten a guy that could work with me, or one of my sons. But anyway, actually, I think one of my daughters helped me one time too. But anyway, so they were already like doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Literally and figuratively. But there are ways that if you want to just pack and load a truck, but not drive it, I would recommend using somebody like ABF. And it's just ABF is a trucking company. And they have the shorter trailers, like the 28-foot, we call them pups, right? And twice I've used ABF. And what ABF does is they come, put one of those trailers in your driveway or out on the street, depends where, it has a ramp. You load it at your leisure, and then there's a bulkhead that you put in place, and you can put a lock on if you don't use the full length of the trailer, and you pay by the foot. If you do use the whole length of the trailer, then you close the door and put your own lock on it. Then you call them up, you say, hey, this is so-and-so, finished loading the trailer, and you're taking it here. And they're like, yeah, we'll have a driver come pick it up. And then they send one of their drivers, they pick it up, and then you kind of work out when they're going to deliver it. And it won't take a month. Like I moved from Phoenix to Maryland, from Mesa, Arizona to Maryland. And I think we were there like maybe 1 or 2 days. And, you know, and they would just say, hey, when you get there, call us, we'll bring it over. And so you call them, and then if not the next day, then certainly the day after, the trailer's in your driveway, you open it up, it's all your stuff. You packed it, you locked it, they just drove it across the country for you. And by the way, it was significantly cheaper than using U-Haul, and it was a lot less brain damage, because then I got to drive my comfortable Suburban across America instead of driving a U-Haul truck bouncing up and down across America. So, in summary, there are a lot of reputable companies out there, but those companies are never going to have an issue with providing you all the information I've talked about: DOT numbers, copies of driver's licenses. Ask the driver, can I get a copy of your license? Can I take a picture of it? Whatever. And paying a lot up front is kind of a red flag. Sometimes independent contractors, they do need some money for like fuel. Fuel is expensive, certainly. But, if they don't have their own truck with their own DOT number, it's just a red flag. I'm sorry. And, you shouldn't be afraid to, challenge people. Because guess what? Once that stuff's on the truck and you see the back end of the truck moving away from you, you may never see what's on that truck again. And like I said, I hope the folks from Kansas get their stuff somehow. But I don't have a lot of confidence that that's going to happen, and that's too bad. And I wish, I wish I'd have done this video, 2 months ago, and they'd have watched it. They might not have been in USA Today. So if this is helpful, I'm happy. If you got questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to answer them. And by the way, I've even dealt with movers for some friends, like, as a lawyer. When some friends were moving, my daughter just happened to be at their house, and she's like, "Dad, can you come over here? These movers are giving us hell." And I went over there, and I just went all F. Lee Bailey on them and resolved the situation. Because again, they were like, "Oh, this guy's like, oh, I got to pay my workers." Well, why? That's not our problem. You hired them, but you didn't get the job done the way you're supposed to. So anyway, I appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to answer them as best I can. But also, you just gotta, you're trusting people with what you've accumulated over a long time. You should, you deserve a lot of answers. So don't be afraid of asking those questions. So anyway, take care and thanks for watching. Bye.